They were unable to answer his question because they were upset that Jesus had just healed on the Sabbath. Had they been in another context and someone would ask, if your son falls into a cistern on the Sabbath, would you pull him out? They would have said yes. Or if your ass falls into a cistern, or your ox on the Sabbath day, would you pull him out? They would have said yes. But they couldn't answer because Jesus had just cured on the Sabbath day. Jesus was doing God's work. Now, I want you to reflect for a few moments on God's work and our work. It would have been the responsibility of any good father to rescue his son and not wait a whole day till it was no longer the Sabbath. So, St. Paul, speaking to the Philippians, this is from our first reading, he says, I am confident of this, that the one who began a good work in you will continue to complete it until the day of Christ Jesus. God has given us a share in his work. Sometimes we think, at least the way I was raised and the way a lot of Catholics seem to think, is God gives me a job and then I have to do it. And when I get done doing it, then God will like me. That's not what St. Paul says. St. Paul says that he is confident of this, that the one, God, who began a good work in you, or in other words, who gave us this new life, who set us on the right path, will continue to complete it. So when we are frustrated, or when we're tired, or when we're ready to give up, we have a right. How often can you say that about God? We have a right to say, God, you gave me this job to do. Give me the grace to complete it. And it sounds wrong when I say it like that because I'm being rather bold. I'm not so sure that I would say it that way to the Lord. But we can pour out our hearts and say, Lord, you have given me this task, and maybe I don't feel up to it. Or maybe it seems like too hard a burden for me. And what will the Lord answer? He will say, take my yoke upon you. In other words, I'm here to help you. You don't have to do this by yourself. You do have to do it. God won't do it against our will. He won't do it if we don't cooperate. But when we try, God will give us the grace to complete not what we want, but what his will is. And again, that's important. Romans 8:28. God makes all things work together for the good of those who love him and are called according to his purpose. In other words, God will give us the grace to fulfill his purpose, because that is what is best for us. His will for us, his purpose is that we should reign with him in heaven. Jesus says, I'm going to my Father and to your Father. Jesus speaks of us as his brethren. At the resurrection, he says to Mary Magdalene, stop holding on to me. I've got to go to my Father. Now go to my brethren. God's will is that we should be true children, that we should be true brothers and sisters of Jesus Christ. And that only happens when we decide, when we make an intentional choice. And when that is difficult, we can cry out to the Lord, I can't do this by myself. I want to do it, but I need your grace. And then as St. Paul says, we will know that God's grace is enough for us.